Step out of the car now." The officer's voice cut through the quiet of the Rosefield precinct parking lot like a razor. The night was still, save for the low hum of the streetlights. Standing by her unmarked sedan, Chief Naomi Carter, calm, composed, and determined, faced the officer. Her plainclothes betrayed none of her authority. "I'm authorized to be here," she said evenly, her gaze steady on him. But the officer wasn't listening. His hand hovered near his holster, tension radiating from him. "Don't argue with me. Step back, or I'll make you," he spat, his hostility palpable in the damp air. Naomi raised one hand, her voice measured as she tried to de-escalate. "You don't want to do this. Just let me." Too late. His movements were sharp and aggressive, driven by something more than protocol. He shoved her, hard, against the car. The impact stole her breath momentarily as he growled, "People like you don't belong here." Naomi's breath hitched. She'd heard those words before. Familiarity didn't dull their sting. Straightening, she brushed dust from her jacket, her composure unwavering. Her eyes bore into his as she asked, "What did you just say?" Her tone was soft, yet the edges cut like glass. "I said, you don't belong here. Now leave before I call backup," he sneered, standing tall in his brittle confidence. Naomi's response shattered his arrogance entirely. Reaching into her coat pocket, she retrieved her badge, gold and gleaming under the flickering lights. "Chief of Police," she stated coldly. The blood drained from his face as reality hit him like a freight train. For a moment, he was rooted in place, unable to reconcile the truth standing before him. She stepped closer, her voice calm but sharp as ice. "Let me explain something to you," she began. "I don't answer to you. In fact, you answer to me." The silence that followed was deafening. His mouth opened, but the words fumbled, tripping over each other in a desperate attempt to form a coherent thought. "Do you even know who I am?" she asked, her voice quiet but steel-edged. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" He stammered, but nothing coherent followed. The weight of his arrogance, once wielded so easily, now hung from his shoulders like chains. That night marked the beginning. No one could have predicted the chain of events to follow, a reckoning that would shake the very foundations of the Rosefield Police Department. Naomi Carter's rise to Chief of Police was a milestone, not just for her but for every woman and person of color told they didn't belong. At 45, she was the first Black woman to lead the department, a position earned through relentless determination and sharp intellect. Raised by her grandmother in Detroit, Naomi learned early that fairness wasn't given, it was demanded. Her career began as a beat cop, working the late-night shifts on streets that mirrored her childhood. She had an uncanny ability to read people, defuse volatile situations, and navigate the complexities of law enforcement. Her rise through the ranks was meteoric, but not without resistance. Some colleagues resented her success, interpreting her excellence as a threat. One of those colleagues was Officer Daniel Reeves, a 15-year veteran of the Rosefield PD. Reeves thrived on control. Policing, to him, was about dominance, not service. From the moment Naomi stepped into leadership, her calm authority unsettled him. Reeves dismissed concepts like de-escalation as unnecessary. To him, the badge was power, a shield that made him untouchable. That night in the parking lot, Reeves learned how fragile that power could be. Naomi's authority wasn't just earned, it was necessary. The humiliation Reeves inflicted on her without thought spiraled back toward him, but not in a way anyone expected. What awaited him wasn't just punishment, it was a lesson. The morning after the incident, the precinct buzzed with uneasy energy. Naomi entered with her usual poise, her head held high. The murmurs stopped as she passed, but the tension was palpable. In her office, she reviewed Reeves's file. His record was riddled with complaints, excessive force, discriminatory remarks, insubordination. Reports had been ignored, swept under the rug by those who valued loyalty over accountability. But Naomi wasn't one to let things slide. The disciplinary hearing convened 2 weeks later. Reeves sat stiffly at one end of the long table, flanked by his union representative. Naomi sat at the opposite end, calm and unflinching. The panel consisted of senior officers, city officials, and external reviewers. As the proceedings unfolded, Reeves's defense crumbled under the weight of evidence Naomi presented: video footage, complaints, and testimonies that painted a damning picture of his behavior. The panel deliberated for hours. When the verdict was read, Reeves was suspended without pay pending further investigation. It wasn't enough for Naomi, but it was a start. Reeves's suspension sent ripples through the department. Some officers rallied behind him, framing Naomi as overzealous. Others stayed silent, wary of choosing sides. Naomi knew change wouldn't come easily, but she was prepared to fight for it. The confrontation in the parking lot wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a deeper problem, a culture that tolerated misconduct and protected those who abused their power. Naomi was determined to dismantle it, brick by brick. Her resolve was tested when Reeves's allies began a smear campaign. Leaks to the press painted Naomi as a divisive figure, undermining department morale. But she refused to waver. In a department-wide meeting, she addressed the backlash head-on. "Accountability is not optional," she told the room. "If we can't hold ourselves to the highest standards, how can we expect the community to trust us? This isn't about politics. It's about integrity." Her words hung heavy in the air. Reeves sat in the back, arms crossed, his smirk faint but present. But Naomi barely glanced at him. She wasn't here to win his approval. She was here to lead. Months later, the department was unrecognizable. Training programs were overhauled, accountability measures strengthened, and community leaders involved in shaping policy. Officers resistant to change found themselves under increased scrutiny. Reeves's fate was sealed when an anonymous whistleblower revealed documents exposing systemic corruption within the department. Complaints had been buried, disciplinary actions altered. The revelations forced the city council to act, and a full-scale investigation ensued. Reeves resigned quietly, his career in ruins. For Naomi, the victory wasn't personal. It was symbolic. She had fought not just for herself, but for every officer and community member who believed in justice. Months later, during a ceremony honoring officers who embodied the department's new values, Naomi stood at the podium. "Change isn't easy," she said, her voice steady, "but it's necessary. Together, we've taken the first steps toward becoming the department this city deserves. There's still work to do, but we're on the right path." Applause filled the room. Naomi stepped down, catching the eyes of officers who once doubted her. Their respect was a testament to her resilience. Naomi Carter's journey wasn't just about personal triumph. It was a story of persistence, accountability, and the courage to lead in the face of adversity. And for the Rosefield Police Department, it was a new beginning.